What's up, everybody? This is Jason, Zombie Collector, I guess. Still debating on if I want to do that, Zombie Collector. Maybe I'll move forward to something different. Maybe I'll change my name. Maybe I'll change it to Dinger. Maybe I'll just change it to Good Old Mascot Dinger. Well, that sounds like it just rolls right off the tongue. Um, that sounds like, it's something that would bring a lot of eyeballs to the channel, a lot of new subs, a lot of new likes, and things of that sort. I think it's appropriate, given the times we find ourselves living in, that a wholesome name like Dinger gets used. Now, obviously, I can't speak for everybody's experience, but I would say if you've been around a ballpark any real length of time, from the time you're a knee high to a toadstool or you're 105, you've probably heard the word dinger, probably, because it's a word commonly used to describe a home run, maybe even a well-placed hit. I can tell you that I've been hearing that word since, I don't know, the 80s, all the way through about 3 weeks ago. Dinger. But apparently, people who have hearing problems or looking for the boogeyman to pop out from under the bed or out of a closet or whatever racist monster might be hiding somewhere in a baseball field in public now, has been brought to everybody's attention that a Colorado mascot and an old grandpa could be in cahoots to talking about a possible racial slur. Shocking, I think. It's shocking in today's world and society that, you go to a ballpark and old grandpa's trying to get the attention of the Colorado mascot and yells dinger. And somehow that translates into the N-word and racial slurs. And I mean, we're looking for this very elusive and evasive racist monster at every turn and nook and cranny, under every stone. Now we're manufacturing, outrage of a mascot, a beloved mascot for the Colorado Rockies, and a word that's used by I would assume baseball people a whole lot, maybe even by Lewis Brinson or Adam Jones. I would venture to say at least one time in their career that they themselves or someone they know might have been like, well, hell, that's a hell of a dinger you hit there. Look at that dinger. That was a mighty big dinger you hit there, buddy. Didn't seem too racist then. I mean, you even have this Lewis Brinson guy digging in hard and go, I've listened to that video clip 50 or 60 times. I just keep hearing that word. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Like, you're hearing the word because you want to hear the word. Though you said you don't, your brain is wired to hear the word because you want to hear the word. You want to be a victim. You want to be outraged. Even though everybody said, and especially in our today's society where everyone's looking for a white person to screw up publicly so they can crucify them, that you want to hear it. And even though everyone under the sun has told Lewis Brinson and Adam Jones and whoever else needs to hear it, that didn't happen, you can look at the video and the audio proof. If you look at the video, you see an old man yelling for dinger, and he's looking over there. He's not looking at the ball player that's 20 feet in front of him, yelling at him at the field. He is actually looking over there, and his kid or kids or grandkids or whatever are sitting around him. And everyone around him said that they were trying to get his attention. I don't know if Dinger's a him or her. Sorry. To get pictures for the grandkids. And that's still not good enough. I mean, what clown show world do we live in, people? It's unbelievable. I mean, you can look, is your eyes lying to you? Even your ears, if you go back and listen, are they lying to you? Because in some cases, apparently they are lying to you. But if you have eyeballs, and I even have 4, you can see the video proof of the gentleman looking off into the distance, yelling Dinger, obviously to the mascot who is out of sight, to try to get his attention. If he was trying to be a white supremacist racist, I would assume he would not be yelling Dinger sideways. He'd be saying the N-word that this Lewis Brinson would sound like he wanting him to say, or wish he would say, to him directly. I don't know where we live right now, guys. I mean, and you know, the thing is there are multiple situations that we hear about on a regular basis of proof where these manufactured scenarios come to play, and it ends up being debunked time and time and time and time and time again, but no one wants to talk about that, and they just keep perpetuating these situations to come up when there's no proof behind it. And when it's debunked, people still want to hold on to it as some sort of like, well, even though you told me it's not true and there's proof that it's not true and it didn't really happen, I'm going to hold on to it because it's my truth, even though it's, you know, what's the cool thing people say now? You're entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to the facts. And the fact is, this didn't actually happen, but you still have clowns out there who want to pretend that it's actually happening. And, you know, and it's mind-boggling. And, you know, instead of being passive aggressive and cowards and just like giving a half-hearted apology on your Twitter or Instagram, they should be apologizing like a man to that person's face, to apologize to him and his kids or grandkids, to say they're sorry for bringing unnecessary like hate mongering and like vindictive, mean-spirited behavior and this terrible attitudes and whatever to this poor old man and his grandkids. Because you best believe if it was the roles were reversed, it would be blood everywhere. It'd be a freaking massacre. And the fact of the matter is that that players can get a pass. It's ridiculous. I remember like last year, 2 years ago, Luka Doncic was getting like called racial slurs or something on the basketball court, and the guy can just say like, "Oh man, I'm sorry." And that was all it took. That's all it was. You know, called him all kinds of stuff on the court. 2 years ago, you had Tim Anderson calling a white baseball pitcher the N-word. 1 game suspension, no big deal. You know, now you have these 2 guys that are like, you know, not maybe Adam Jones to a lesser degree, but he got on the old bandwagon and was running this poor old man into the ground and his kids, and was like a half-hearted apology, like, oh well, if you didn't say it and it caused you unnecessary stress, well, I'm sorry. Well, sorry just doesn't cut it. You should be apologizing to the guy's face, because you know when that situation is reversed and somebody else makes a mistake, that they have to apologize all over themselves profusely. They have to go on the public realm and every news station and radio station and, you know, TV station that will let them put their faces on, and they have to cry and apologize and plead their case and grovel, and then that person still is like removed from society. But you can call this poor old white man basically a racist when he wasn't, and you can have all this proof that he did nothing wrong, and you still can just get on your little Twitter and then go, oh, I guess I'm sorry if you didn't say it. Well, he didn't say it. It's not an if, it's not a maybe, it's he didn't say it. It is so frustrating that now we have people like these just looking for the boogeyman to pop out of somewhere so they can run to it and say, oh, this is some terrible thing that happened to me. And even when you're provided with rock hard evidence and proof that this isn't the case, you still have people who won't accept it. I mean, I don't know what Twilight Zone world we live in now, but it's unbelievable that a person can be ruined and his family ruined because of a misunderstanding because you can't hear right. And even when you should have listened and waited to the Colorado Rockies to do their investigation and then find out and make your decision then, opposed to just immediately jumping on social media and try to cause this man all kinds of now problems and headaches and maliciousness towards him. I mean, it's a complete nightmare. Where are people standing up and standing up for this guy? This old man who's just trying to go out for his grandkids. I get to see my dad doing that. My dad's at a game. He's with my son. Now, granted, my son's older now. He probably wouldn't be as interested. But let's just say he was 7 or 8. And he'd be so excited to see the mascot, Dinger. And my dad's back there. He's a loud and shockingly, I'm sure you all will be shocked to hear my dad's a loud and boisterous type, knowing that I'm so meek and mild and like a wallflower. If he's like, hey, Dinger, hey, over here, Dinger. Can you come over here, please, Dinger? You know, like if he said those things and then somebody, actual $1 million baseball players who don't look at context or look at the situation before speaking would try to ruin my father or me or anybody. It is unbelievable. We have a society now that would rather rush to judge someone or something than to wait back and patiently but to listen and figure out what actually transpired. And if outrage should be the main course of the day, then so be it. If that was the case, that is not the case. And no one's letting people let the process work itself out to figure it out. Everybody just wants to jump immediately to the worst case scenario and try to ruin people. I don't care what the situation is. We're now at a point now that we are trying to ruin people publicly as much as they can without knowing the whole context of the situation, without knowing the situation itself, without fully understanding. It is mind-boggling. Yeah, it is exactly right. It's about being first and not about being right, and that's 100% correct. It's not even about, I don't even think, if I understood correctly, that Adam Jones and Lewis Brinson, or Breeson, sorry if I'm not for sure I mispronounced his name, took down the initial post where they ramrodded this poor old man as calling him a racist and a horrible person. I mean, it is mind-boggling. It is mind-boggling that we let that happen, and no one's expecting these players to issue a genuine, heartfelt apology and like them taking the time out to apologize to this man publicly. They want to do the coward's way out just to be like, oh well, I'm sorry if I need to be sorry. I didn't mean for any problems. I'm sorry if any backlash happened to you. Well, you know what? You caused the backlash. You amplified the situation 500,000 times higher, 1 million times higher with all your followers and whatever. Instead of just letting the Rockies figure it out and know what's going on, and then even looking at the video proof, the audio proof, whatever you need to hear, and then move forward, you're immediately crucifying some old man. I'm tired of seeing stuff like this happen to people. I don't care what color the person is. You should not just immediately jump to the conclusion of this person is evil, terrible, horrible person without knowing the whole situation, the whole story. There's more to it, more than likely, more times than not. That's the reason why they have people in courts who will have two people tell the same story in two different ways, even though they both looked at the exact same scenario. You have people people who witness a crime, people who witness a car wreck. Even though we all watched the exact same car wreck, we have 3 or 4 different perspectives. So just because you see or hear what you think you see and hear does not necessarily mean that's the case. You should wait until let all the facts come out to figure it out. You can be manipulated. You can also just jump off to a conclusion that's not true and correct. And nowadays you can ruin people's lives. Like this poor old man might have his life ruined, or at least he's now having to explain himself that he's not some kind of raging racist who happens to go to Rockies games to scream his racism. That's like a couple years ago when the uh, Doug Landville was at the Chicago Cubs doing an interview or something, and some kid did the circle game behind him, and they were like, "Oh, that's the racist hand sign." It's like it's a circle game. It's some kid, and they apparently banned the teenager or young adult from ever coming to, I don't know, Cubs game again, Major League Baseball. And it's like, dude, if you unless you have your head so far up someone else's butt, you would know that's the circle game that kids have been playing since I don't even know when. I will say at least the 80s when I was doing it. And now all of a sudden, I mean, like, it's all about the intention. What is behind it? Obviously, that's like the hugest thing you could do is be like, oh, circle game, I just got a whole nation. You know, it's like, it's just ridiculous. And now we're talking about dinger, you know, but I just want to say, I stand with dinger, you know, and and I just have to say, just put an exclamation point on this. This guy who is not from Colorado, to my knowledge, who is not a Colorado Rockies player, who knows now for sure that it was not, well, he should know, but he's being just a child and a crybaby and just ridiculous, that there was no maliciousness or ill intent said or done in this situation. He was like, well, I think the Colorado Rockies should probably do maybe a deep dive and make a decision to no longer have that name. Maybe they need to retire that mascot or that name. Why? Nothing happened. Why would they need to retire that name? Do you not use the word dinger, Lewis, Adam? You want not use that word anymore? Do you never say the word dinger? And like I said at the beginning of this video, I seriously doubt you've never went your whole life and not referenced when somebody hit a home run, he just hit a dinger. I would, if I was a betting man, I'd bet $1 million that you've said that at least once in your life. Your friends have said it, your family members, whatever, your coaches, somewhere, and you did not immediately jump to the conclusion that the word dinger actually could have been mistaken as the N-word. I would venture to say that's probably not the case. You know, when I hear the word dinger, I don't automatically think that has to be the N-word. No. Especially when there's a big purple, Barney-looking dinosaur off in the distance whose name is Dinger on top of all that. Even if you don't need reference, you know, I would still be like, I think he's probably referencing the big purple Triceratops or whatever he is over there. Probably what I would think. But even if the dinger wasn't around, even the old big dinger wasn't there, how many times do you hear that word in a baseball game? Everybody says it. Everybody's saying the word dinger when he references that. Not everybody all the time, but you hear that word all the time at games. Literally, you hear that word all the time. From T-ball through Major League Baseball, you hear that term. And to now all of a sudden try to demonize the term and anyone who says it or organization who has it, that they should get rid of their mascot because it's, you know, first it was the Indians and it was the Redskins and it's the Indians. Now who knows what? Now it's Dinger. Dinger's on the list. Watch out. You're getting ready to get canceled, Dinger. Poor Dinger. I wonder, can you say Dinger in public anymore in referencing to baseball? I don't know. Inquiring minds will want to know that if you're allowed to say, are we going to have word police now? And what about if I think it? Am I going to get in trouble? Will somebody come and check my memory banks? If I go, oh, you know, Joey Votto just hit a dinger. There it goes. I'm gone. I'm done for. Never show up in a Reds game again. Never show up in Major League Baseball. I use the word dinger even in my brain because that word apparently has been banned because it makes some people feel some kind of way, even though the word was never used in any kind of way. And the word's dinger. It's not a bad word unless you're referring to something else. A male anatomy, maybe that's inappropriate, but would that be expulsion worthy? I don't know. Maybe. I know I guess we're going to find out. I'm sure there's going to be a big push to try. Hopefully, Colorado Rockies save their dinger. Save the dinger. You know, like in but Back to the Future. Save the clock tower. Save the clock tower. We'll save our dinger. Save our dinger. So hopefully they will save the dinger. You know, I would give money to the Save the Dinger Fund. I would put a quarter in that can, like, you know, like Michael J. Fox did in Back to the Future, just to get that creepy lady away from me. I would drop a couple quarters in and be like, save the dinger. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We will see. But the dinger's been put on notice. The dinger has been put on notice that apparently purple dinosaurs and old white grandpas who are trying to get the mascot's attention now can be put on blast by young black baseball players who want to hear the N word. And even though it's been proven not to be the case, they still hold on hope to that maybe they're going to convince other people that's what they actually heard. And that's not at all what happened. And dozens of people who were around and interviewed, and I'm sure higher ups of the Colorado Rockies organization have all confirmed no racism had happened that Sunday afternoon. But we have people out there trying to hold out hope that there's still the boogeyman hopping out, coming to these games and yelling at us, saying terrible things. It's mind-boggling. I see this, and like I will say this again. I'll just kind of keep going down this road. Why not? You have people like Lewis Brinson and Adam Jones who have said, and I've mentioned this in other videos before, especially Adam Jones, who have said this evil, racist boogeyman pops out all the time at baseball games. And I'm like, why have you never brought it to anyone's attention? This is a perfect example of if this is really happening, as you claim it's happening all the time to all the different players and different backgrounds. This is always happening to them. So you say, I don't know. Where was that outrage 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, last year, recently? Where has it been? Because if this is truly an epidemic thing that's happening, why have we never heard you bring it up? Why has it never been? Why has it never been on your social media? Like you blew at this poor white old grandpa out of the water. Why hasn't it been yelled from the rooftops? And I'm not saying bad things don't happen, but you're making it sound like it's like every time you step onto the field, you're dealing with this, and all over the United States. Like that's what you're saying. That's the presentation you're giving. You're perpetuating this as a all the time thing. We all know there's dumb people. I mean, Stephen A. Smith just got done being, closeted racist when you're talking about Japanese people. Ohtani, he can't be the face of baseball because he don't speak English. That's called soft racism. That's soft racism. But no one calls that out. Everybody's like, oh, that's, you shouldn't say that, Stephen A. Smith. That's not right, But, that's what's going on there. That's okay. You had a football player yesterday or 2 days ago, or maybe a basketball player, say something negative about Asian people. He does his apology. Everything's fine. He gets to move on with life. He just carry on. He just sends out a tweet. He tweets. He does a little tweet, and everything's forgiven and forgotten. But your old grandpa out with your kids or grandkids, and you yell the name Dinger, then you can be, virtually, and then maybe possibly in your physical world, crucified with hate when it's not even real. It's all manufactured. It's manufactured racism that's not real. This is the reason why I don't want to get back into it. Like I was getting excited about the prospect of sports and, well, not sports, I say, but baseball cards, let's say. And then a story like this comes up. And I'm like, I feel like it's like the universe going, Jason, do you really want to participate in this world? And I'm like, you know what? No, not really. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I had these 2 cards I was excited to show off. And I was like, oh, here we go. No one else is going to care about these cards, but I care about them because I like baseball cards. I like baseball players who aren't stupid and dumb and looking for the boogeyman to hop out from behind the netting of a baseball field when they're yelling for their grandkids to get Dinger close to them so they can get a picture. But apparently the world we live in is some kind of upside down, topsy-turvy, Twilight Zone, Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451, George Orwellian world we live in. It's like, it doesn't make sense anymore. I mean, like, seriously, people. Seriously. So, I don't know. What are your all's thoughts? I'll leave the video up. What are your all's thoughts? Do you think that this is ridiculous? I mean, I know a lot of times people are scared publicly to say anything anymore, but I mean, I haven't said anything. I'm just bringing. I'm saying facts. It can all go. You can all go back and look at the videos. You can go back and look at the actual players' statements. Nothing I'm saying is hyperbolic or whatever. It's like, here's the reality of it. I'm just asking, when does it stop? When does it stop? Because when real terrible things happen to people, when real racism happens, it loses its effectiveness because you're dealing with all this silliness that's manufactured fake racism. Instead of using when real situations happen to real people and using that to bring attention to terrible things happening, no matter what the situation is, that should be the situation we're talking about. But it loses effectiveness because you cry wolf all the time, or you know the sky is falling when there's nothing to see or to hear in this case, and I guess see. So it loses its power, it loses its effectiveness when you're yelling into the darkness all the time that you're experiencing some sort of hate and racism when it's actually not in fact happening. So then when the real person experiences that, it loses its power. And that's unfortunate. It shouldn't happen that way. I've experienced it when I lived in Asia. No one's immune to it because it's ignorance. People do ignorant things and people are ignorant, but I don't let that define me. I don't let that affect my life. And yes, granted that my situation is a little bit more unique or different, but it still happens. You can't just say it didn't happen just because it doesn't fit the narrative that you want to, say because I'm a white guy. But living in Asia, I experienced that on a regular basis. It didn't change who I am. I just thought those people were stupid. They said things, they did things, they were, just certain, like just the way they treated me. It was felt. It was very, obvious. But it didn't change my experience because that was the very select few idiot morons, people, and not the whole picture, not the whole thing. And I mean, but when those things happen, if it's more egregious than somebody saying something, but in America, if it's happening, something like this, a real thing happened, then of course it needs to be addressed, no matter what the race of the person is. It should always be addressed. It should be taken serious without a doubt, because there's no place for that. But it loses its power when you have these jackasses like Lewis Brinson and Adam Jones saying these terrible things about white grandpas who obviously were not talking to the player or players. He was talking to a mascot apparently 30 or 40 feet away from him, trying to get the attention as he's looking that direction, not yelling the N-word right in front of him to the black baseball player. That wasn't what was happening. So either you just refuse to accept your eyes that telling you the truth and the ears that let you listen, or you realize that is the truth and you accept you were wrong and you probably shouldn't have jumped to conclusions, and you apologize like a man to the guy personally, and not like piss poor apology on your Twitter or whatever, and try to like absolve yourself of any wrongdoing. You almost probably ruined that poor man's life, or at least made it very, very uncomfortable and difficult for the last 3 or 4 days. It's unbelievable. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much more can we handle of this kind of behavior, people. How much more of this can you handle? I mean, at some point, do you ever say enough's enough? Because you're continuing to pay these people their salaries and these organizations their money with gate fees and jerseys and, ball cards and, tickets and paraphernalia and everything else. It's at some point, do you say enough's enough? Just think about this. Think about if it was your grandfather. Think about if it was your grandfather or your dad saying something just to get your kids attention, for your kids to see the mascot. And then some prima donna baseball player or whatever thinks they hear something they didn't, and then proceeds to put you on blast and your family on blast, and then doesn't really have to walk it back. Even after they were proven they were 100% wrong, they still want to hold on to their guns and go, no, I don't want to have to really say I'm sorry. I don't want to say I was wrong. So I'm just going to be like, well, okay, if you experience some bad times and some negativity. I'm sorry. I mean, what kind of apology is that? Seriously. It's mind-boggling. It is literally mind-boggling. It is something that, like, I think about that because I can see my dad so easily doing something like that. And I'm sure a lot of us have moms or dads or grandpas, moms, or grandmas, whatever. I mean, like Indianapolis Indians have a mascot, I believe. His name is Rowdy, Rowdy, Rowdy. And I remember when Luca was little, he would be walking around and trying to get all the kids excited, and they walk through the stands and everything. And like you as an adult male in baseball player is now trying to police moms and dads and grandma and grandpa's words because it may offend you because you think you hear something. I can imagine I'm like trying to get Rowdy's, attention for my son, and I don't even know whatever. Just assume some sort of possible racial slur could be, connected to Rowdy. I don't know. Rowdy, the Indianapolis Indians mascot, who I believe is a little bear, like a little honey bear, but he's red and all that. And I'm like yelling Rowdy. I mean, like, when you're up at the plate, are you listening to random parents and grandparents yelling at their kids or grandkids? Or you should be focusing on the baseball field. You're in the batter's box for crying out loud. Shouldn't you be paying attention to the pitcher, what's going on the field, who's on second, what's the score, how many outs there is? Why are you listening to hear if you might hear the N word running out from behind your head somewhere? I mean, it doesn't even make sense. I mean, like, if I'm at the ball field and I'm yelling the word Rowdy, and I got like seats at the right behind the catcher, which this man did apparently, and I'm yelling Rowdy, and then like this guy is like thinks I'm like saying something terrible, and I'm over here just trying to get the guy's name, so I want to get my son a picture. I mean, that's what this old man's doing. That's what this old man's doing. And then he's like, treated like he's some sort of, I don't even know what, some like hate mongering racist or something. It's literally mind blowing that this is happening right now. Manufactured racism. It's not real. It's not happening. It didn't happen. And people's lives are actually affected like this. And that's the thing. These ball players, they get to go back to their $1 million houses and $50,000 cars or whatever, and they eat their steak and lobster and their whatever. They get treated like gods. And then this old man, guess what? He gets back in his whatever Lexus, driving back to his whatever couple $100,000 house, maybe. Who knows? It's Colorado. And then he has to live the rest of his life like, a normal person, because we all are normal people. What about if this man spent all this money he had for one nice weekend with his grandkids to take them out to do something nice? He's like, you know what? I have all this extra money, or I got a bonus, or I got this money, or I'm retired and I want to do something nice. I'm going to get these really great tickets for my grandkids, and I want to take them to this game. And we're going to sit right behind the catcher, and we're going to have this great experience. And then what makes this experience even greater? Let's get a picture with the grandkids and Dinger. Wouldn't that be so much nice? Wouldn't that be a great memory to have, to share with the family? When I'm no longer here, they'll have a picture with Dinger and my grandkids. This will be great. And all that gets washed away. That just, these ball players get to go back to their homes and their lives and get to live whatever. And this old man now has to explain how he didn't say that, and how he was just a normal Joe just sitting in the bleachers trying to get the mascot's attention. I mean, people don't, words matter, people. Perception is reality. People's lives are affected by how other people try to come at you if they have an agenda against you. And even though they might have against that man per se, they had an agenda against perceived manufactured racism that they were creating without letting all the facts come out as they were. I mean, then you might have a situation. I still wouldn't have put the guy on blast. I'd be like, what are the call about? I'd either ban the guy, whatever, fine. But I'm not going to try to make it even worse. how's that man affecting you in any way? And then I just have to add, if anybody's even still watching at this point, even if it's later on down the road, Lewis Brinson literally said he'd been playing baseball. I don't know how old the guy is. Let's say he's 25 years old. He may be older. He could be younger. He was like a young guy. He literally said his entire life, I don't even know if he said his entire baseball life or his entire life in general. I think he said his entire life on earth, he has never heard a person to his face or around him refer to him as the N-word. Never once. Never. That's his words. So even though he's making claims that this happens all the time, every time you step onto the field or step into the stadium or whatever, he himself has never experienced it. He was the very first and will not let go attacking this man for something he did not do. And then Brinson will not apologize and actually do a real apology to the man and man up and apologize for his, for what he did by putting this guy on blast. So right there tells you everything you need to know. A multi-million-dollar, I'm assuming, baseball player have never experienced a person to him himself, is what he said, call him that. But somehow he decided to take it upon himself to find manufactured racism on the ball field or around him to pull out all the stops to try to ruin this guy's life. And then to find out it didn't ever happen instead of just letting the situation work itself out to get the full details. I mean, that just tells you everything you need to know. It's not like this kid has been growing up, and I call him a kid because I'm in my 40s and he's, 20-something-year-old kid, that he's never experienced this his entire life. But he was ready to hear it and ready for that experience so he could jump on. And like what somebody said, they want to be the first instead of being right. They want to be the first one to bring it to somebody's attention to put that person on blast. And they don't care what the fallout is because they know it ain't going to be on them. They know that they don't actually have to deal with the fallout. They don't care about some old man who has to now explain and defend himself that he didn't do or say these things. They get to go on to the next ballpark. They get to go on to the next paycheck. They get to go home with their family, their friends, all their money. They get to just live their lives. They don't care about whose life they ruin in the process out in Colorado. They could care less about old Dinger. They're ready to move on to the next place. Where are we at, people? Where are we at right now? I can tell you right now, I feel like I'm in some clown show and those are the clowns driving, and we're going to drive right off a cliff if we keep this up. So, yeah, I'd like to know people's opinions below. If anybody made it this far, anybody wants to hear this, I'm interested to hear what people's thoughts are on this. Because there got to be more people who have to stand up and say enough's enough. Because this is going to continue to happen. Nobody's going to be able to go out and enjoy a family get-together at a ballpark or a field or a court or anything else without worrying about somebody trying to, ruin their lives because what they think they might have heard or what they think they might have saw or whatever the case may be. So now I'm going to be all doing this. Oh, it stopped. Maybe it's the YouTubes. Maybe it's the YouTubes trying to shut me down. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and stop. And until next time, peace.